time opportunity. If somebody says that to you, they're hoping you're going to make a rash decision. They're not going to want to give you the time that you can go and do your homework first and investigate before you invest. If somebody ever says this to you, you need to really think about it, because that might not be the best decision for you at that point in time. Another red flag, excuse me, credit card and checking account number is required. You do not need to give that information over. Only available to a select group of people. That kind of goes along with the lines of you're lucky to be getting in on the ground floor. The product needs to be available. If they're going to do an initial public offering, if they're going to do something, it needs to be available to a wide group of people, and that should be a red flag for you. I get nothing out of this deal. That should be another major red flag. I always kind of chuckle on this one, because this is that person's livelihood. They wouldn't be doing this if they weren't looking to get something out of return for it. So if somebody says, you know what, I'm not going to get anything out of it, I'm just trying to help you, that's another big red flag. They're going to get something out of it. Another red flag is do not tell anyone, not even family. And we tend to hear this red flag more with the senior citizen community, because the senior citizens tend to be trusting, and the fraudster doesn't want to give that person time to go home and talk to his family members who may be a little bit more educated on the topic. If somebody approaches you and wants to talk to you about it and they say that, you should just probably back away. If somebody says, I will come to you, you don't have to come to me, they're going to try, when they say this, to be your friend. They want to make it look like they're going to help you as much as possible. Another reason we see this is because they want to try to avoid U.S. postal fraud. If they ever send any fraudulent documents in the mail to you, that's a fraud right there in itself. So if they're going to come to you, they're going to try to make it so they can avoid U.S. postal fraud. They want to get your trust. Foreign banks pay great interest rates and have no taxes associated with them. Again, the word foreign, overseas, international, I always try to, any of those words should be red flags. Should always check with the Securities Division of our office if you ever get anything inviting you to participate in any of those investments. And we can thank Martha Stewart for this next one. This is insider information. If you ever get told that you have insider information, you need to back away quickly, and you need to contact our office to let us know what's going on. Another type of fraud that we're starting to see here in Indiana and across the country is mortgage fraud. Now, granted, mortgage fraud is only a very, very, very small portion of the foreclosure crisis that we're seeing across the country, but it is a problem, and it's one that our office needs to address. Some of the red flags that we're seeing when you're dealing with a mortgage situation, if somebody is constantly shifting your closing date, you need just to be aware of that situation. If you are trying to get out of another house at that same point in time and somebody keeps moving your closing date, you might incur additional fees for moving your closing date for your new house. Sometimes it's maybe okay once to move it, but you just need to really be cautious if they're continually, repeatedly moving your closing date. If somebody offers a quote-unquote free refinance, you need to look at all of the fine print, because there's rarely going to be a free refinance. There's usually some type of fee associated with the refinance if it's not actually put into the product itself. So if somebody says a free refinance, be sure to read all of the fine print. Total reliance on the loan broker. We're seeing more and more people that do not have enough knowledge when they're going into the mortgage process, that they put all of their trust into the loan broker. And unfortunately, there's unscrupulous loan brokers that do exist that try to fraud people out of their money that they're putting into this home. We have a database that you can call into our office and check on the status of any loan broker in the state of Indiana. They must be licensed and registered with the Secretary of State's office. We like to say it's good to do your homework first and at least know some of the basic terms when you're going into the mortgage process, and not put all of your reliance on the loan broker. You have to know a little bit yourself when you're going into the process.
The company themselves need to be licensed, but those that work for them who originate the loans also need to be registered with our office. So when calling in, know the name of the person you're dealing with, and we can check our records and make sure that person is registered with our office.
Another red flag is if you get in a mail, you've been pre-approved or pre-qualified. These are marketing terms. These really honestly don't mean anything. These are solely marketing terms to get you to call into that company after you've gotten the mailer in the mail. If you get these terms, if you get a mailer with these information, don't get too excited, because they're solely marketing terms. Another red flag is offering a free real estate appraisal. Again, this kind of goes along the lines of the refinance. There's usually some type of fee associated with the appraisal, so be sure to read all of the fine print when you're going into the process. Another red flag, and we're actually starting to unfortunately see this, is falsifying income. This is actually a federal offense. When you're filling out your application to figure out what type of mortgage you're going to be able to apply for, you have to be honest with yourself and you have to put what you are making at that very moment. Don't guess, oh, I'm going to get a raise in a couple of weeks and put down that amount, because something can happen and you might not get that raise. You need to be honest with yourself and put down what you're actually making, because if you put more, you might actually not be able to afford that amount that you're approved for if you put down a higher income than what you're actually making.
And not only will you not maybe be able to make the payments, but you could be committing a crime.
Another type of fraud that we tend to see is loan flipping. Would you like to explain loan flipping?
Well, pretty much what happens is you have an individual who gets a house, finds a borrower for that house, tells them that what we're going to do is get you a loan for that property. We will find you investors, or I'm sorry, renters. We will manage the property for you. We will buy the property back from you in 2 years. Well, what happens is, if they get renters for the home, usually the promoter of the deal will take payment from those renters and not pay the mortgage company or the lender, do the mortgage payments, and they walk away from it, and you have an individual who may have multiple homes purchased in their name that's looking at foreclosure now because no payments are being made. They've been victimized by the promoter of this deal. So pretty much they're going to promise you a flip on a house in a couple of years if you put your name down as the owner of that home. And a lot of times what we find out is because these people wouldn't qualify under conventional terms, they list the individuals as the home being their primary residence and not as an investment related residence.
When filling out your mortgage paperwork, it's important to realize you only can have one primary residence. We've seen cases here in the state of Indiana where people on multiple forms listed multiple houses their primary residence, and you can only have one primary residence. Another type of mortgage fraud red flag that we like to warn people about is overappraised residential real estate. You're going to have guys or gals out there that are going to overappraise your property because they want to get more money than what the property itself is really worth. And in situations like that, we tend to see a lot of foreclosure instances coming out of those situations because the property isn't worth what they're paying for it and they can't afford what the property really is. Switching at closing, undisclosed prepayment penalties, balloon payment rate and terms. A lot of these, we like to caution people, if you're going to be getting into a mortgage, if there's undisclosed prepayment penalties, you need to have, everything needs to be disclosed up front. If you're going into a balloon payment situation, everything needs to be disclosed up front, what you're going to be getting yourself into. If there's something that's not disclosed, you need to contact our office and we can help figure out if this person is licensed registered with the state of Indiana.
Those people that do catch the last minute changes, a lot of times are convinced to go ahead with the deal by the loan broker probably, with the thought that in 6 months we'll be able to refinance for you. So accept the deal now, in 6 months we'll refinance. Well, that never happens. In most cases, as Beth indicated before, the property is appraised at a much higher value than it's worth, so when they try to refinance, they can't get a loan because the house isn't worth what they're seeking.
Post-closing squeeze for more fees is one of our last red flags. If somebody says when you're at the closing table, if somebody says, oh yeah, we forgot to tell you, we need to collect these fees now, you need to have your red flags up. All of the fees need to be disclosed up front. What are some simple ways for you to avoid fraud? The first one is if you get a telephone call and somebody's trying to get you in a fraudulent situation, just hang up the phone. This is the one time that you can be rude. Hang up the phone. Another one is through the Attorney General's office, there is the telephone privacy list. Sign up for the telephone privacy list. The website is telephoneprivacy.net. Always remember to ask plenty of questions. The more questions you ask, the more information you're going to be armed with, and the better off you're going to be. Also, in a situation with questions, if there's questions, if you bring those information to us, that'll be help our investigators determine the situation to see if there's fraudulent activities going on. Remember, those touting investments are there to not only help themselves out, I mean, some of them are there to help you out, but you need to remember that they're helping themselves out at the same time. Check licensing and registration. When you're getting into any type of securities investment, mortgage, real estate, you need to check the licensing and registration status with these people, and you can do that through our website, which is indianainvestmentwatch.com, or with the Secretary of State Securities Division.
And not, excuse me, and not only